Hey guys, in this video we're just going to be taking a look at Script Premium Artist watercolour paints. So these are what I got from Aldi, and as you can see on camera I also got a mixed media pad and some watercolour paint brushes. And here are the tubes of paint. So all of these items are from Aldi, so they were cheaper than most art supplies, which is why I thought I'd buy them and test them out. If you didn't see my video last week, I also tested out the watercolour pencils that they sell. So these tubes of paint come in a little bucket. You get 20 of them. I think it said 12mm for each one. And I'm just showing you a little bit on camera the range of colours you get. Sorry, my lighting is a little bit bright in the top corner, but it gives you a rough idea. And I'm quickly going to test these out on one of the pages of this pad. I'm doing a quick colour swatch so that we can see how these colours actually look. And they did go down quite even, actually, sort of quite, quite consistent. Complete honesty, I don't do much watercolour, or I haven't done any watercolour really since I was a kid. So whilst I am reviewing these, I'm definitely not an expert with watercolours. And in case you're wondering what that blank patch is, that was actually me putting some white watercolour paint on, which I knew wouldn't show up, but I still wanted to test it anyway. Below the swatches, I just wanted to play around with mixing some colours, almost just practicing watercolours a little bit, just because I don't have much experience. And I think what I was doing here was actually just playing around to see if I could get an almost hair effect, or a fur effect I should probably call it, because I wanted to test these paints out on a little funny looking monster that I created, which you will see in a second. So I just wanted to play around here, test the colours and see what effects I could get really. So I'm going to move on to the creature that I sketched out now. This isn't really something I would normally draw. This is a little bit different for me, but I thought it was quite funny and kind of cool in a weird way. So I thought I'd go in with a base colour of blue, or a wash of blue, and I wanted to keep this really light, but as you can see on the shoulder or the arm of the monster, I went in way too dark to start. Again, that's nothing to do specifically with these watercolours. That's just my inexperience with them. I was kind of picking up how to use them a little bit more as I went along, but I was a little bit annoyed that I'd gone in so dark with the shoulder. Felt like I'd ruined it straight away. It was quite frustrating, really. And all I'm doing is I'm using the same blue. I haven't mixed anything in yet, and I'm just starting to use it a little bit less watered down so that it appears a little bit darker, stronger colour, and I'm trying to put in some shadows. You'll notice that the monster's quite difficult to see all of my pencil markings and things like that. I did want to keep it so that the lines weren't too dark, but as I increase the shadows on this monster, I keep going in darker and darker with the colours. It does slowly start to define the creature, and it pops out from the page a little bit more and starts looking kind of cool, I guess. And the monster design for this was supposed to be a little bit silly. But that being said, it still took me a lot longer than I expected. I thought watercolour would be a really quick medium to use, but because I don't have much experience with it, it ended up taking me hours and hours to do. I think I should have probably tried something more open, something a little bit more like a landscape, or something that I could have had a bit more freedom with. I think I was trying to be too neat on this, which I don't know if you would necessarily use watercolours for defining and a neat kind of painting. In my head I always picture them more for landscapes, fields, things like that. So maybe I should have done that, but this was just my preference. As far as the actual watercolours go, they seemed really good to me, to be honest. The odd colour was a little bit more watery, including the black, but once it was on the brush it didn't really seem to affect anything. It seemed to mix in pretty well with the other colours. I also planned on putting purple patches of hair on his body, but because I was struggling initially with the blue, I ended up sort of scrapping that or forgetting to do it, as I was just so worried that this was going to be chaotic. But by this point now, I was starting to already become a little bit more confident as it was coming together, as it was becoming more defined. You might notice that I swapped brushes a little while ago. These were some different brushes I had, and the reason for that is because the brushes from Aldi kept losing tons of hair out the end of the brush, so it just became a pain. So I decided I'd just use some other brushes I've got. The paper, it did actually start to bow a little bit because obviously there's quite a lot of water on here, but when you consider that I'm not taping this down or anything though, it holds up pretty well really. I think it's 250 GSM thickness. And I can't remember if I mentioned earlier, but the paints cost $4.99 and that was for 20. So that works out at 25p each. You would still get, I would imagine, quite a few paintings out of them. I barely used any on this. Admittedly, it is difficult for me to give a full review of them with me not using too many other watercolours to compare with, but I don't really see what could have been improved upon really. For me, they were really nice colours, they mixed well together, they were a really good price, and once I got the hang of them they were easy enough to use, so it's pretty difficult to fault them really. I'm sure that someone who's an expert with watercolours would be able to tell you that there are some differences. But even if that's the case, I would say these are definitely worth getting if you want to pick up watercolours, if you want to start them. Maybe like me, you don't have much experience with them. You want to play around and see if it's a medium you enjoy using. So overall for the price, I think they were fantastic, to be honest. And yeah, you can probably see from my painting, I do need more practice with them. But in a weird way, I was actually really happy with how this turned out. I kind of looked at it and thought, it's a silly drawing, but I kind of liked it. I'm going to leave the video at that now. Don't forget you can check out my video from last week of me testing out the watercolour pencils. I don't know how often these paints will be around in Aldi. They might be here for a while or it might be a one-off. I'm genuinely not sure. But if you do want to try these out, make sure you get them soon just to be on the safe side. So as always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment below and hit that thumbs up button. And make sure that you subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching everyone.